Derek, how was this almost mini break, I suppose, the week off? What was it like for you guys?
I hated it, to be honest, truth be told. I think when there's international breaks, there's that general feeling that nobody's playing in your league and you can get a wee bit of maybe much needed downtime, but when there's other teams playing, I hated it, kind of skulking about, people asking how you've not got a game of the day, and I said no, we're out the cup, and just a wee reminder every time somebody asked me that we'd out a cup tie. So I enjoyed watching the games as you do, but when there's other teams playing in Scotland in a cup competition, and you're not in it, then it kind of hit home really. I just want us to be relevant. I want us to be in semi-finals, finals of cups, and top six and playing in Europe. And Saturday was a wee reminder that we weren't there this time around. And so, in answer to your question, I didn't enjoy the break at all. The international breaks at times can be good, but having a free weekend wasn't what we wanted.
Just a look ahead to this one in Dundee United going well. Is there a sense that the side just almost need just a win just to kick-start them a bit and get them on a run?
Aye, I think for any team, I think there's been an understanding from everybody. I think we've come out of Europe with our head held higher. I genuinely feel that against three teams who were seeded. We lost 2 away games, narrowly to Bruges, narrowly to Copenhagen away, but there was a consequence of that domestically. But we're now out of that. Obviously we drew with Hibs and we've drawn with St Mirren, so both games for different reasons. The point was good. I think it was, for me, the performance last time out against St Mirren was exactly what we are. It looked as if we had a full week's training. It was the first full week's training we'd had going into domestic games this season, and I think it showed in the performance. So there's 2 parts of the St Mirren game. There's the actual performance part, which people forget about because it gets overshadowed by all the carry on that went on, but we were so good against St Mirren. With 10 men, 11 men, we were really impressive. It was 2 strikers, 2 wide players, competitive, passed the ball well, really was a real kind of reminder how good we can be. So the emphasis for us now is to try and, can we now be, before the first round of games, can we be a top 6 team? That's my challenge to the players, so we need to get winning a few games. But the performance is my biggest gauge, and the performance against St Mirren after a full week's training was exactly how we were last season. For me, it was a winning performance, and if the officials do their job right, then we probably win that game. There's no two ways about it for me. But we felt really let down on in some of the decisions. That has now been validated by the refereeing department. It was validated by a phone call that I had with Willie Collum on the Monday after the game, and there's not much they can do after the event, and I accept that there's a need for them to be better, and they should have been better, but I thought it was a real low for the refereeing department, that performance, and when at times we could see the benefits of VAR, that was a real case in point where VAR highlighted how poor a VAR decision it was, as well as not helping the referee.
Willie's been commended for coming out and being sort of clear and transparent and all this sort of stuff, but does there just become a point where you don't want the phone call on the Monday to say sorry?
I didn't get the phone call, I phoned him.
Oh, interesting.
Aye, so and I feel as though I've always had a good line of communication with Willie when he was a referee, as a player, or when I've been a manager. And I I'm not here to praise the refereeing department at Willie in particular because they're being transparent. I think it's the way it should be, and I'm glad that he senses it that way. I do think he's a guy who'll make change, and I think he'll get things right over time, and I think he'll implement a standard that's needed. But and I think we've got some really good referees and good officials in the country, but we've also got, I think, a few who need some work, and for me that it's quite galling, the fact that one of the St Mirren players involved plays the next week. Joe Wright gets a 3-game ban. Joe Wright's involved in the penalty kick with the same player, that they get the penalty, he's involved in an instant. Joe was rightly condemned by me and has been punished to the full extent because he's allowed himself to get involved in a situation, but for the on-field stuff and decisions, we were badly let down as a club. Badly, and that was recognised by Willie. You know, so that at least there's that kind of acceptance of it. If that had happened to an Old Firm club, you would still be going on about forever. It would, I mean, it was a huge impact on the result, but it was just seen as a bad day at the office for wee Kilmarnock, who would move on, and I felt it was, we just felt so let down. We couldn't believe what was happening in front of us, to be honest, with 1 or 2. The man-drawn one, I'm okay with, to be honest. The fact that he'd said it should have been a red card offence doesn't help us, you know what I mean? And at the time, it certainly would have been. Someone been down to 9 men halfway through the first half, then we're winning that game of football. So, but the other one, I thought there's no place for that type of behaviour by any player on a football pitch. And it should have been dealt with. You
mentioned the circumstances that it leads to you not winning a game, it leads to Joe Wright and everything else. Does there have to be more punishment for a referee, or more sort of circumstance for a referee to ensure that you just can't get those decisions wrong?
Listen, that's up to the refereeing department. I'm not here to, if you have a bad day, and it's not here to. It didn't help our day at the time, and we're not here to jump all over referees, but it was a poor afternoon from the refereeing department, and Willie's acknowledged that. So, like everything else, you expect better, and I'm sure there will be better going forward. But that, as I say, it was disappointing.
Anyway, obviously seen a second manager lose his job 5 or 6 games into the season. Is it quite frustrating as a manager seeing your colleagues?
Well, do you know something? There's 2 managers there. One towards the end of his career with Craig, and I spoke with Craig and I spoke to Maisie yesterday, and one starting out his career, and both rightly lots of praise for the work they've done last season. Now that can quickly get forgotten about by supporters, and I get that. I think in Craig's situation, new owner normally means new manager. That's normally the case. It's just normally a matter of time, and you know, a lot of times new owners want to bring their own men in, and I think Craig can feel hardly done by, to be honest. I thought he went in and took over a difficult situation and managed to safeguard their Premier League status. I think by his own admission, I think he's made some good signings. I think St Johnstone will be better than they were last year, but he's not getting an opportunity to see if that is the case. And in Nazy's case, you know, again, another strong performance last season from Hearts, and you know how quickly it can turn, particularly when the supporters become unhappy. But I just thought maybe even at boardroom level he might get a wee bit more grace with that and understanding it, and a benefit of the good season he had last season. So for me, it's really always disappointing to see managers lose their jobs, and I think in those 2 cases particularly harsh.
You obviously had a long-term spell at Aberdeen. You're here now, one of the longest-serving managers, and maybe even the longest-serving manager. How important is it as a manager to get that time to get the kind of backing of the board as well?
I think as a manager, it's important. I always say you've got to win games, clearly, but you've got to have that connection. The strongest connection you can have, I think, to get results is through your dressing room and have that strong connection and with your players. But you've also got to have the strong connection with the key decision makers at the club, or the key decision maker, and that's got to be there. There's got to be similarities, there's got to be understanding, there's got to be a kind of similar mindset, a similar ambition, and way of working. But there's also got to have that try hard, and the hardest one at times is having that real connection with the supporters, because supporters feel you know, there's always somebody maybe better, or somebody another option that could maybe in their eyes get better results. And I think for a manager, having those key connections is vitally important, and I think you need to work hard at it. I do. But when you lose, certainly if you lose that sort of connection with the dressing room, key decision maker or supporters, then the job becomes really difficult. And you've seen it so often now, the clamour for, right, there's one manager, so who's the next one? It's like the betting odds, the newspapers report on it, pundits talk about it. It's just the way it is. It's not going to change, no matter what we all think. And it's just the law of the jungle, really. You just got to try and keep your head above water and keep yourself going and believe in what you're doing, and trust your way of working. And whether Craig wants to go back in again, I'm not so sure whether he does, but certainly in Nazy's instance, I think he should, as I said to him yesterday, just take the good from having the benefit of managing a club like Hearts and be ready for your next job in time, because he's obviously shown a level of performance that allowed Hearts to such a strong performance last season, and he'll go again as he's young enough to do that.
Do you take it as a compliment when you get linked with jobs like that?
No, really, no. I actually don't take any notice of it. My job and focus is here. I think I'm at an age now where when you get linked with things or your job's under pressure, people talking about it, I actually don't really see much merit in dwelling on it. So my job fully is on Kilmarnock. And going back to the other question, it's just about making sure that we are the team I want us to be, being relevant again as we were last season. People giving us plenty of plaudits and mixing it and landing a few blows on bigger teams with bigger budgets, and I believe we can be that team again. I actually think we've got the potential to be better than last year, and that excites me, and hopefully we can start by getting a winning performance again on Saturday.
How's the squad looking? 2 weeks on from your previous game, you've talked about Joe Wright. Have you got any other knocks or injuries at all?
So Liam Donnelly will be back. He's back doing work. He'll be back full training tomorrow. Brad Lyons is back from a suspension. So they were unavailable for St Mirren, and Joe's unavailable. So I think Joe and Kel McInnes are the only two that won't be figuring at the weekend.
How is Kel coming on? Is it?
Slowly, yeah. So we're trying to find best practice for him in terms of being able to be available for us on a Saturday. He's managed to put some good training days together, but also making sure that his training week might look a bit different before he become available for games. So Kyle's working extremely hard. I think it's a wee reminder how precious the job is for players and how much they should enjoy being out there and being fit and being able to run about. But hopefully, by the time we come out the next international break, Kyle will be available for us.
There's a general assumption among punters and fans that you'll turn it around because you had such a good season last year. You've got a strong squad. Are you a bit concerned that maybe lead to a bit of complacency within your players, that they maybe don't understand the seriousness of the situation?
No, listen, complacency has never been something that you could ever aim at our teams, because we work towards being as good as we can be. We never accept a bad practice, we never accept a lazy day. We're working towards a result. I don't want to look at league table at the minute because for obvious reasons, but listen, I'm confident in the last couple of performances. After a Thursday night game in Europe and playing against Hibs and getting a well-deserved equaliser in the last minute, the performance against St Mirren with 10-11 men, you can only judge what's in front of you and how your players are. And I think, as I say, in Europe and now the last couple of games domestically, we've been absolutely fine, but we're working to turn that into winning performances, and a big part of that is keeping 11 men apart. So, I'm criticising a refereeing performance and some decisions, but we're not blameless ourselves in terms of not keeping men on the pitch. So I'm not worried or concerned about it. I just want us to get going and get improving.
Have you had a word with the players, maybe a cautious word just about the discipline? 4 times, like you said.
I've had it a few times. I've had it 2 or 3 times, and that's why, as I say, I was quite strong and forthright after the game. I'm not one to make rash decisions, but the decision I made after the game was 100% the right decision. It's those 2 points, you can blame on referees, and every manager up and down the country at some point will blame a referee. But if we keep 11 men in the pitch, it could be the difference of top 6, bottom 6, or European football for us. So there has to be, now Joe's no longer available, he has to suffer not only for last Saturday, but suffer for, he doesn't play now he's a 3-game ban, so he doesn't play now until the end of October.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on Dundee United at the start of the season and the work that Jim's doing with a couple of results, but they've genuinely started pretty strong, haven't they? Yeah,
I watched their game. Obviously they lost it to Rangers, and which can happen, and then obviously they lost a cup tie on Friday night. Myself and Paul went down to watch them. It was a very tight game. I think everybody anticipated that, and I thought they had some really good spells in the game. And I think Jim said as well, I think when they equalised, I thought you know, maybe they were the team that was going to finish the game the stronger, but Motherwell come up with a big moment, the penalty kick, and managed to punish them. So I think they'll probably feel themselves a wee bit unfortunate not to be competing in the semi-final, but as a newly promoted team, even one with the expectations of Dundee United having been there, I think they've started very competently and with a bit of confidence, and obviously Jim knows his way about the Premier League, and after coming up from the Championship, I'm pretty sure that they'll have their own ambitions, and Jim will speak about that, but they look like a team who have been in a squad that are good enough to hang about the Premier League comfortably.
Obviously a very experienced manager now, Derek, but I'm wondering what elements of your experience you can bring to the squad to make sure that they don't panic.
I think you're the only one that's panicking, to be honest. We're good. We're all good. I mean, I manage the way I manage, and my players work, and they know what to expect from me. I think even just having that routine and familiarity of training day to day. As I say, I do think it was clear for people watching us that we looked as if we had a proper working week going into the St Mirren game. I think if you look at last season, the kind of consistency of team selection was probably my same team, 9-10 players every week, you know, which obviously keeps the squad on their toes and everybody has to fight to be involved, but the consistency of selection I thought played a big part of it. The early part of the season domestically, juggling suspensions, juggling European football, we were everything but consistent with selection, so it was a wee bit up in the air, but now we feel Hibs, St Mirren, decent performances, more than decent performances in the two games. It's not been winning performances, but in another day they were.